That's a problem. We're building not for the human being. We're not building for humans or life. We're building just for productivity, like you said, and just how quickly can we make something, but it's all ugly. And you're right, there's so many amazing studies that are happening right now showing us that ugly cities are making us unwell.
This is Off the Shelf, where we take the most iconic beauty brands, products, and people in the beauty industry off the shelf and examine the stories behind the story. It's where beauty is treated like the economic, cultural, and power-building force it really is. I'm Susannah Dellinger, and here we're going to talk about what really shapes the industry, who holds the power, how decisions get made, and what it actually takes to build, scale, and quite frankly, survive in beauty. These are the conversations happening behind closed doors about money, relationships, risks, and cult moments. If you're building, breaking through, or trying to understand how the beauty really works, or just love a really good story, you're in the right place.
Welcome back to Off the Shelf. Today we are so excited to have the iconic Jennifer Walsh with us. Truly, if we go back and look, what was it, 1998, 1999, like before omnichannel was not a buzzword. .com for beauty was not a thing, right? Influencer marketing was not even like in anybody's vocabulary. And yet here you were really combining all three of those concepts before it was in any industry psyche out there. You were very, very, very much ahead of your time with your work on air that eventually led to Beauty Bar. You know, Jennifer Walsh, you integrated brick and mortar e-commerce. You had a weekly television show that you shared with me about that led there.
Yes.
You also put huge brands that we now know as huge brands, but back then were very much emerging indie brands, you know, in a platform that there really wasn't huge distribution around before you did this either. So you've really engineered beauty as we know it in so many different touch points. Truly, truly.
Thank you.
So instead of starting at the very beginning of it all, which we will get into, I want to get into really what I think of as when I look at your career, you know, as sort of up to this point, because my goodness, you're probably still just getting started with what you are doing.
I am, girl.
100%,
I totally am.
I love that.
I'm excited
so
every
much.
day.
Yes.
Every day I'm excited. Yeah.
But I want to look at the body of work and kind of the through line that I'm seeing. You know, you've spent a few decades, right? Since you were 10, a few decades.
Thank you. I'll pay you later.
I am going to stop making that joke because that joke is rooted in the fact that we should not own the age that we are. Right? That we should pretend that we're younger, you know? So yeah. I love it. But you've spent the past few decades at the intersection of beauty, retail, wellness, and also neuroscience, which I find truly, truly fascinating. And yet I still feel that the beauty industry is not taken as seriously as it could be. So my first question for you is, if beauty was taken as seriously for its ideas and maybe as seriously as tech or healthcare, what do you think would be different for especially female founders building in it? And do you think we're close to it being taken as seriously as those other industries?
Oh, Susannah, right off the bat, here you go. That's a great question. I love that because I think about that all the time because I feel like, I know we've had this conversation offline that there's all this conversation around beauty around the world, but they're in industries like urban design and neuroscience and philosophy and even school design and just all these different industries are talking about beauty, but the beauty industry really isn't seeing what it has at its fingertips. So
truly,
when you ask a question like that, I think when we realize the impact that beauty has on our actual bodies and brains, it just opens a door of possibility and wonder and awe and saying, wow, beauty is really a biological need that we all have. So how do we then think about beauty in a body sense and not just a product and service sense, but what's it doing to our actual bodies and brains? There lies in such opportunity to really discover what beauty is to the human body and the brain.
I love
Yeah,
this
so
so
it's
much.
exciting.
That is truly
Me
exciting.
too.
So did you write away when you were first starting out in the beauty industry? Were you already diving into this neuroscience aspect of it? What juncture point along your career did you first start thinking about this, discovering it, reading about it, and integrating it into your own work?
Well, really, my interest in psychology started a long time ago. I was actually thinking about going into psychology instead of business in college. So I studied business instead of psychology, but I always loved it. I always loved the brain aspect of why we do what we do, and I was always curious about the brain. But it really wasn't until after Beauty Bar and after Pride and Glory that I really started thinking about what is it that beauty's doing to us actually, like, physically and mentally more than just a product. And for me, that was kind of hard because I was always so product focused. I was always thinking about how do we sell a product? How do we bring it to, market? How do we, grow it and launch it and all the things? But this is more of a holistic view of what does it really mean? What does beauty mean to the brain when we kind of step away from just the market value of it and what is it doing to us? So it really didn't start until 2017, 2016, 2017 is when I really started saying, what is this thing? What is this thing of like beauty in the brain? And that's where the interest really started. And all of a sudden I went down that rabbit hole, as you can understand, and I never came back out.
I love this. So this is almost a decade then ago that you first, just which is crazy to think about. So I would ask you, what does beauty mean to the brain based on all of your research and where you sit now? What do you think is somebody's first listening to this and discovering this idea that beauty impacts us on a neurological level? What is it to you? What's the thesis so far?
Well, what I've learned is like we've always heard that saying beauty is in the eye of the beholder, but we have found out that really beauty is in the brain of the beholder. So how do we think about beauty in a sense of not just a beautiful face, because that's what we're programmed to think about, the beauty of a face, but really the beauty of an experience as a human being. Like, what is a beautiful landscape to us? What is that kind of feeding us and giving us? And what is the concept of art? Like, why do we love to paint and doodle and draw? It's an innate feeling within us. And again, it goes back to our ancient brains wanting to do things that we used to do, but now we're not doing them as much. But I'll get back to that later. But I really think that beauty in the brain is this experience of beauty.
Yeah.
How do we kind of become in community and oneness together of understanding our spaces and our places and the human connection are so intrinsically important to human flourishing, and not just like how do we get through our day and how much can we get done and all these tasks that we have, but really how do we step back from that and say, I need to feel fully alive. And what does that mean? It means having like a beautiful view or seeing something or eating something's just so delicious. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful experience. So I always think about beauty as an experience and therefore is an impact on the brain. And of course, the longevity of health for our brain as well.
I love this so much. For me, it comes up when I've had the opportunity to travel in Europe. And then when I come back to the States and like the very like physical reaction I have when I come back, it's like, wait, and I think that
Yeah.
you've shared about this in some of your things on social. It's like the de-beautification of that's happening in the country we live in, where the spaces are not intentionally made to just reflect beauty. They're made to be as productive as possible or as efficient as possible. And there's a stripping away. And you notice it in places like Europe when you're like, even the
Yes.
airports are gorgeous, right? Let
Yeah.
alone, of course, the beautiful museums and all the things and the buildings, but everything that should just be like functional. You're like the windowsill over here is carved, right? Like there's just like everywhere it can be. And it seems like other places have very much held on and understood this. And it
Yes.
appears
That's
that we don't.
exactly it. I know we don't. That's the problem. We're building not for the human being. We're not building for humans or life. We're building just for productivity, like you said, and just how quickly can we make something, but it's all ugly. And you're right, there's so many amazing studies that are happening right now showing us that ugly cities are making us unwell.
Mm,
I mean, across the board. So what you're saying is Europe and European countries really honor their past. They highlight it. They would never consider knocking it down. They want to keep it, preserve it, and showcase the beauty of preservation of what used to be. And then people kind of want to honor that land. They don't want to get rid of it. And I mean, there's a suffering happening in New York City because we are utterly stripping the beauty and the history from what used to be. And they're just filling it with these glass structures, which are actually very uncomfortable to the brain. We're not even thinking about it. So when we walk by these glass structures, we're actually walking a little bit faster and we're not even thinking about it because they make us feel uncomfortable. It's just these monstrosity of buildings that are not healthy for us. We need architecture. We need that rooted beauty of wow, discovery and wonderment. That is beauty. And so when we strip a place of beauty, it makes us unwell.
Oh, there's so much to go in here. I want to take it back though for listeners that are not yet familiar with your previous body of work as well. And if you are not, please, please, please go read all about Jennifer Walsh. Let's talk about how you started Beauty Bar. So I remember you sharing offline with me that a friend of yours, while you were a makeup artist, twisted your arm and talked you into going onto a weekly TV show. So here you are, a reluctant but fabulous on-air host, because it's always our friends who see something in us, right? Like, how do I do
Always.
this? And yet clearly you resonated with an audience who then started, what was it, sending in questions about what you were talking about. And how then did you how did you fill in the gap that from the questions that people had about the products you were talking about to the retail space, that would become Beauty Bar?
It was an interesting time, Susanna, because again, like I was a makeup artist and I was doing things on set and I was doing stuff for magazine shoots and concerts. And a friend of mine said, his guest fell through in the local ABC affiliate. Can I please come in? And my response was, I'm not going to say the words on the podcast, but I was not going to do it because I thought I do the makeup for people on TV. People like me don't go on TV. And again, this was exactly 29 years ago this month.
Oh,
29
wow.
years ago this month, I
Happy
have been on
29-year
TV.
anniversary to your friend dragging you onto camera. I love this
It's
so much.
so mind blowing to me. So it was exactly 29 years ago this month, and he put me on TV and said, "I need you to just bring your makeup kit and talk about what the products are you're using." And at that time, it was, again, there were only a few brands, but then we also now had Stila was just coming out and Bobbi Brown and Fresh from Lev and Alina and Philosophy and Trish McAvoy and NARS and all these like really new brands were just kind of indie brands that we were calling them back then were coming into the scene. So I would go on and talk about these weird new products. And then a lot of people would then writing to the TV station saying, what was she talking about? I'd never heard of these brands. So then they asked me to come back and then it became a weekly TV segment all around beauty. And it was really fun because that one segment led to all these people asking me questions. Why are you talking about Bobbi Brown, the rap star, making makeup? And I said,
Hilarious.
no, that's not Whitney Houston's husband. And it's an actual makeup artist. Her name is Bobbi Brown.
Yep.
And it just kept going. So I thought so many people were writing into the studio office and then or studio, I should say. And then they started writing to me at my home office. And I thought, well, I wonder if I can take this TV segment and use that as my educational tool and then sell these products in a store. And again, this wasn't happening yet. This was the pre-Ulta, pre-Sephora kind of, or Sephora was just opening in the US in 1997. But they were only selling
Pre their
Sephora
dominance.
products.
They were not dominant. In fact, that was
No,
still,
they only had one store
Yeah.
in San Francisco.
this
They
is
were
still
opening.
in like department stores where we all went, right?
Yeah. There were and department stores were only carrying like 5 brands, like Prescriptives, Estee Lauder, Clarins, Clinique. I can't even think of like the 1 or 2 others, and that was it. So we had like 5 or 6 brands at department stores, and Sephora was coming with their white glove service to America, and it was like launching in San Fran. It was very different. So I'd never seen what I wanted to all of a sudden think about creating, but the brand said yes. Christina Carlino and Lev and Alina from Fresh and all these times said, yeah, sure, go ahead. Here's the products and go ahead and sell it. So I didn't have any idea of how to sell. I didn't know how to sell products. I had never sold products before in my life. And you know what I did? I actually had to watch
I
QVC to
love
learn how to
this.
sell Philosophy. Yeah,
Yes.
I did.
Shout out to
I watched
QVC. I remember watching
I know.
Tova Nights back when I first started on the second
Yes.
floor. And I was like, whoa, she's selling a fragrance with nobody smelling it. I'm taking
Yeah.
notes. Yes,
Mhm.
QVC is a great teacher.
It was a great teacher of how to actually like sell the products in like really in my store and cutting an apple in half and showing a vitamin C treatment on the apple throughout the day. And anyway, it was a fascinating time. And it was a time where I could actually do these things because there was no one watching. I didn't know how to do it. I was so small. I was just figuring it out as I went along. And then I realized I was asking people to sign a book in my one store, like, "Oh, sign like a sign-in sheet. Like, come on, so we can email you." And people are saying, "I'm not going to give you my email address. It's too dangerous." I mean, I was like, "Okay, too dangerous to give me an email address." So then I thought, well, if people won't let me like take their addresses, so maybe I'll just create a website so people can then visit the website when they wanted to. And again, this was so unheard of because people weren't showcasing beauty online yet.
Nobody had beauty e-commerce. This is and so and you talk about these jumps very casually, like, of course, anybody would have figured this out. It would have been very easy to stay on air, right? As, like, an on-air person talking about beauty. Opening up retail takes capital, takes deep organizational skills, takes what gave you this confidence that you're like, "I know that I can figure this out?" Because for people listening who have their own idea, I think, you and I have talked about this. I think sometimes as women, we think incorrectly. These leaps are for other people who know what they're doing and who have training in this or backing in this. I'm not in that bucket. But here you are, wonderfully so, being like, I don't know, I'm going to open up a retailer and nobody's going to give me their email address. I'm just going to create e-commerce. Why not? Right? Like, I mean, I say that jokingly, but when I say it's
Yeah.
audacious, I mean that in the most amazing, complimentary, respectful way. It is audacious with a capital A. Where did that come from?
Well, you know what? I think honestly, it's naivety is bliss. I mean, I didn't know what I didn't know, and I was like, "Oh, I'll just open a store because that sounds." I mean, my parents were like, "Are you sure you want to do this? I mean, this is crazy. You're going to be working a lot." And I thought, but I love beauty, and I wanted to create a space that people felt welcomed in, and I wanted it to be the antithesis of what I felt in a department store. So how do I do that? And the idea for the online was just kind of I was very lucky because my little sister had a boyfriend at the time that was a website developer and could very good code focused guy
Shout
and
out
so
to
young in his
sisters having great
I
dates that help
know.
us out in
I
business.
know. I mean, if it weren't for him, I would have never had the website. I would have never because I didn't know how to create a website.
Right.
So we just kind of had this opportunity to create this website, and we were doing like we created like pages, like people would actually open pages in a magazine on the website, and it was really so different. And it was just fun. It was really fun creating flat lays and then doing email blasts back then, and that was again, no one was really doing email blasts to customers and saying like, "Take a picture of your bathroom of all of our products, and then win a prize." Because again, no one else was selling these products anywhere. So I also made sure the brands that we were selling, we had a for a 100-mile radius, no one else could sell it.
Oh, you had exclusivities.
I did. I did.
Wow. That is for people listening, that is a very big deal that a brand could not be sold within a 100-mile radius of your stores.
And not even department stores. Like, no, you could not have any. But I think it's, I mean, honestly, Susanna, I mean, I had the TV thing. So the TV was a big part of their like, oh, well, if she has TV, she does have brick and mortar and she does have a website. This is very
You had the
multi-channel.
channels. You had the omni-channel before they were
Yeah.
really naming what that was. They just recognized that, yes, they could tell that this is going to work. So here's what I really want people also to understand about you. So you exit your company to a company that then this very same year gets acquired by Amazon. And this is prior to Amazon ever selling beauty at all.
Correct.
Now, for people listening to Amazon, people in the beauty industry know this, but for anybody else, Amazon is one of the number one retailers of beauty now in the world. So how does that feel looking back and realizing that you quite frankly built the infrastructure of what now has become one of the most dominant retail channels in modern day beauty?
Well, you're making it sound really big.
I mean, you kind of did. You had it. They bought it. Yes, they scaled it, but you had it.
To be honest, it's so many multi-layers because at the time when I was selling to Quidsi, I didn't know that they wanted to flip it to Amazon. So with that being said, I had very deep, strong relationships with these brands, like with Bond Number 9 and all the brands, like Mario Badescu and every single brand founder. They were friends. They were friends first before anything, because after that long period of time, you're growing together And it was very important to me to hold those relationships very dear to me. So Quincy had bought me, and I'm growing, and I'm trying to help the new beauty bar team get acclimated with the brands, and it wasn't easy because the brands were a little worried. And then halfway through the year, I find out that they are now flipping the company to Amazon. And I
A
mean,
small little
that kind of
startup that
just
nobody ever heard of. Wink, wink.
exactly. Yeah. But as you know, back then, no beauty brand wanted to be on
Nobody.
Amazon because
Nobody.
it was like very standoffish. So all of a sudden, it was the gut punch I would never have wanted, because then I had to go and I had to call my friends at the brands and say, "Listen, I have to be honest. Like, this is what's going to happen. They're flipping me, and they're all flipping to Amazon." And the pushback was massive, and they all started jumping ship. And they all started saying, I'm not going on Amazon. I'm not going to go on Amazon." And to be honest, the new beauty bars said because everyone started leaving, everyone started saying, we're not going to be on Amazon. They all started getting off the contracts. They threatened to sue me. So I was
Wow.
threatened by the very company that was buying me out. Uh, and the threat was real. And I'd already gone through a really horrendous year beforehand to have to sell off the company. That's a whole other story.
Yeah.
But it was a really hard year. And I said, go ahead, like, go ahead and sue me. Like, it's my integrity. Like, nothing else matters without integrity. I mean, it can take a second for integrity to be gone, and you built it up for 15 or 20 years. So it takes a lifetime to have integrity and a second to get rid of it. So I said, that's more important to me than you taking money away or doing whatever you want to do to money. It doesn't matter. So I told the brand founders I was doing it, and they were all pulling out, and I walked away from the Amazon beauty bar deal, and it wasn't pretty. It wasn't pretty. And they didn't want the brick and mortar at the time, and they didn't want anything else other than the database, of course, and all the products and all the brands. So it was a challenging time and a gut punch. And of course, then Amazon, it all grew, and everyone started coming back to Amazon because it was Amazon.
Well, now everybody will give their right arm to be a top brand on Amazon, right? I mean, even just 3 or 4 years ago, brands used to have discussions about, well, we don't want to go on Amazon because then Sephora or our retailers at department stores won't take us seriously if we're seen as an Amazon brand. And now those very same retailers, when brands are trying to get in, are saying, well, are you on Amazon? What are your numbers? How are you doing?
I know, it's wild. And that
Wild.
was just like 10, 15, 12, 15 years ago. I mean, what a big shift in such a short period of time.
Huge shift. And I think it's so interesting what you talk about, the importance of trust and the importance of integrity. Somebody just yesterday was asking me, what does wealth feel like to you? And I was in a
Interesting.
small group and people were talking about financial resources and freedom. And I sat with it and I said, I honestly no longer view wealth as monetary. I view it in terms of trust, because if I were to go down to zero, God forbid, overnight, right, with my own business, I know that I have the trust and the relationships of the past however many decades that I can rebuild with, right? And I think people forget so quickly that the real currency is rooted in integrity, trust, and relationship. And we've
Yes,
moved away from that,
100%.
right?
We totally did. We absolutely moved away. And I'm so glad you're bringing that up, because you are spot on in saying that, because people are so quick anymore. Everything's about the next thing and the next thing and the next trend and the next product. And we're losing fact that this relationship that grows over time is so important. Like you just said, I know that I can call a friend of mine from 10 years ago. We might not have seen each other maybe in 5 or 10 years. Maybe we see each other on like LinkedIn or one of the social platforms. So we're still in each other's mind, and we knew it, and we still know how we treated one another with absolute utmost respect and kindness. And we always know that we're there for each other. Like, what can I do for you? There's always, what can I do for you right now? And I love that we don't ever say, I need this from you, really. But it's more of, what can I do for you first?
Yeah.
And then you can ask for, like, hey, by the way, I'd love a little. But they're always there for each other. If you just show up for each other in a bigger way, it's important. It's really important.
I love that. Before we go into the next thing, I based on everything you just said, what would you tell to a founder starting out now or in a situation similar to yours where they're facing a really hard decision, where something might feel out of alignment, whether it's they've taken on new investment that is pushing them in a different direction or encouraging them to scale faster than they were thinking, or something just feels no longer in integrity and they don't know how to navigate that and are afraid. What would you say to a founder like that?
It's a great question, and it's important to ask these questions before you are in desperate need of something. Like, let's say you're scaling and you're growing and you desperately need money, and you're going to make some really wrong decisions when you're in a desperate place. I've done that before, so I'm speaking from experience. So I always tell people, look for people that have been through what you're going through. Look for people. Don't just look for coaches, and nothing against coaches, but look for people who understand business and what your steps are, because if you don't have someone that really understands, they won't be able to ask you the right questions. You're able to really say, you're going to need X, Y, and Z to have a better runway of opportunity and necessity and needs. So I would say just find the people, ask everyone you know, and say, do you know anyone that could help me answer some questions? Because I will be the first one to say, yeah, let me know how I can help you. Like,
I love
what do you
this.
need? What kind of questions and answers? That way we've all made mistakes, and our gifts are to share those mistakes so others don't make them. I think that is like such a huge part, is really sharing our journey with one another. That way people can say, oh, okay, that didn't just happen to me. It happened to other people, or maybe I should take that advice. So I think it's just about communicating instead of sitting in silence and feeling, oh my God, I'm going to be looked upon negatively, or I'm going to be judged. Everyone's going through their own stuff and no one cares. I mean, it's like everyone has their own stuff to deal with. It's like, yeah, of course I'll help you because I've got my own stuff too. Like, what do you need? And
Yes.
so
This
there's
is
no
incredibly powerful
no judgment.
because I can speak not just for myself, but for other people that I talk to. I know you talk to other people too, that founders beat themselves up and think that you have to project that everything is great at all times. Otherwise, it's weakness and you're not going to get a certain deal or you're not going to get certain investment or people aren't going to buy from you if there's anything shaky. So people are often thinking, oh my gosh, I can't share this. I can't ask this because then it's going to show weakness. When what you're saying, the true power comes from connection and sharing the vulnerability that everybody goes through. I don't know a single
Everybody.
person in business for more than 12 months that has not gone through something that they needed guidance on or made
100%.
a wrong move, etc.
Yeah, and that's where the real honest vulnerability is, and that's where people feel connection, because then they feel like, "Oh, you're going through this too," or, "Oh, she isn't perfect," or "He isn't perfect." It's really about showing the humanity of what it's like to really build something, because, I mean, don't get me wrong, I was always looking like, I wanna be on the cover of this, I wanna
Yes.
be on the cover of Forbes, I wanna be on the cover of, an
Yes.
Entrepreneur and
Yes.
Inc. magazine, because that's where I thought the win would be. So we had all these, like, false expectations, and I didn't see anyone failing at the time. But thankfully now there's more voices coming out saying, "Wow, I had to shudder and this was an awful experience," because if we don't share, I mean, what if you lose all your I lost all my money. I lost everything I had through multiple things, and how do you come back from that? Or how do you have to get back up again and get back up again and get back up again and keep going? And if we don't see people around us doing the same thing, we kind of then hide in shame. We should never live in shame. We should never be embarrassed for situations that we all have to like live through and understand. And again, those little things that you go through help other people get through their own hardships in life.
I love this. I love this so much. So I'm going to talk about Walk with Walsh next because your pivot then, you have Beauty Bar, you launch Pride and Glory, your product line, which we can talk about as well. But then you go into walking CEOs and high-level people through Central Park and really talking about beauty surrounding you and biophilic design. And where did this idea come from? Because this was also way ahead of its time when you started doing this years ago. I mean, the through line here is Jennifer Walsh is psychic. She is early. Whatever she's talking about now, everyone is going to be talking about in the next 5 to 7 years. So please listen to her. But all kidding aside, where did Walk with Walsh come from? And if also then you want to talk a little bit about the Pride and Glory journey as well.
Yeah. So I'll start with Pride and Glory because that was like the budding up to Walk with Walsh. So say really quickly. So I created Pride and Glory. It was a bath and body care line for the collegiate market. So I always had people coming into my store saying, "Do you have anything for FSU here? Do you have anything?" So for these like collegiate SEC, the Southeastern Conference schools, because my
Shout out
stores
to
were in the Southeast.
SEC.
SEC, there's FSU, there's Vanderbilt, there's University of Tennessee, and, all these schools in the South. So, here I am. I sold Beauty Bar. I went to Amsterdam, worked for a company called Rituals for a year, and then I worked for a few other brands. And then when I was here, I thought, I wonder if I could create something. And I had this like light bulb moment when I was out walking my dog, and I thought, I wonder if I could create a beauty brand for the collegiate market. And long story, it was a very, very hard thing to do. And I had money saved up, and I said, I'm going to go ahead and do this. And I launched with 40 SKUs, 40 SKUs. Big mistake. Big mistake. Yeah, 40 SKUs, 8 schools. I should have done 1 school, 5 SKUs, and I didn't. I went like full throttle. And all the parts of it were really hard because all the products were being made on the West Coast and I was living on the East Coast. And for me, I was so used to touching. Yeah, I wanted to touch the product. I wanted to handwrite notes to people. And I was so disconnected from the making and the packaging of the product that I never saw. I never saw anything. And I felt completely disconnected from what I was creating because I was so used to having the products in front of me and selling them from my hands to the hands of someone else or at least online. This felt so, the disconnect is hard. And what I was saying beforehand was I was running out of money and I was getting desperate. And long story short, I had people come be a part of it out of desperation. And it was a very, very big mistake. And I had to shutter the brand within a year due to really poor choices. And it was gut wrenching. And that was when I lost so much of my money. And it was gut wrenching. And the process I went through, it was just, I was embarrassed. I thought, I know how to do this, but it was a lot of missteps along the way. And I didn't know a lot of people at the time that could really help me, or I kind of was too private. And I thought, oh, I had Beauty Bar. This is going to be fine. And it was a
not.
it was not. So to be honest, I went back to, after I had to shutter that, I went back to walking in the park all the time. And all of a sudden Facebook Live was coming out with this new feature of like Facebook Live. And I thought, oh, wouldn't it be fun to enjoy my walks with other people that are brand founders, that are my friends in New York, and interview them. So I'll go for my walk and I'll interview them, and we get to kind of have these behind the scenes stories about their lives and what it's like to be a healthy leader. And Susannah, that's when everyone kept saying, wow, I never get outside. This feels so good. Every single person I interviewed kept saying the same thing. And I thought, why aren't people going outside? Why? Because for me, that was so foreign because I'm always outside and I love to go for walks. And people said, well, I spend my time on the weekends or when I'm on holiday. And I thought, that is something so fascinating. So I thought, okay, there's got to be something here. There's got to be a through line of what, if we know it feels good, but we're not doing it, where's the disconnect? And that's when I started reading all the books I could get my hands on. Nature Fix from Florence Williams and Last Child in the Woods, Richard Louv. And all of a sudden I realized there's something here. There's something here that no one's talking about or addressing. And it's our innate connection to nature and being outdoors. And that's when I started screaming it from the mountaintops. And I started interviewing more and more people and went down to Serenbe in Atlanta, outside of Atlanta, and did a series there for a few episodes. And it just kept growing and growing and growing. And this conversation kept evolving into, what does it mean to have more nature? And what is that doing to us? And that's when I just started getting more and more aha moments, and everything started aligning into a way that I never thought it could ever happen. But it all made sense because it has always been there. The beauty and our spaces. Beauty Bar was built with biophilic design. And I didn't have a name for it.
Right.
So now, I discovered that in like 2017, 2018, when I started going down this rabbit hole. The biophilic design is exactly what I was doing with Beauty Bar back then. And everyone told me I was doing those stores all wrong, that no one cared about the design or the look. People wanted, sell the products. You need the square footage to sell as much as humanly possible.
Which is crazy.
But now we know. Yeah.
Now we know.
Now we know.
And for anybody not listening or anybody listening who's not familiar with biophilic design, do you want to define it?
Sure. So biophilia is our innate connection to all living things. It's our love of life. And E.O. Wilson is a famed biologist from Harvard who has since died, I think, just 3 years ago at the tender age of, I think, 96. Incredible man, incredible scientist. He was just wonderful. And he really popularized this idea of biophilia. We have to have that reconnection to nature. And so then what is that idea of bringing nature inside? So biophilic design is our bringing aspects of nature indoors, but understanding how much natural light we need. Why do we need these textures? Why do we love wood? And why does our heart rate go down? So these studies started happening in the 1980s across the world of nature in the space and nature of the place and the resonance and all these things. Like we were talking about the history of places and why we feel this sense of awe and just wow in our bodies is because there's a resonance. And people are like, wow, there's a history here. There's a feeling, there's an emotion attached. So it all made sense that Beauty Bar was this creative space of place, and how do we honor that location and and the beauty of it, and how do we bring those elements of the outdoors in, and it was all there all along. And even my apartment here in New York City, I created wood on the walls and
Oh,
lots of
it's so
greenery
beautiful.
and
And people didn't hear that it was recorded. As soon as she gets on, like, where are you? You look like you're in like the Plaza Hotel lobby. Like, it's just my living room. Like, okay.
it's like my tiny little apartment. It's very, very tiny, but I was, like, building these, like the tactileness of, like, books stacked everywhere, and it looks maybe haphazard, but to me, it's a feeling of connection. So yeah, that was all of a sudden I was able to then put the docs together of the Walk with Walsh video series. I all of a sudden was able to look wider and bigger at, oh my God, that beauty and nature has always been the through line of my work and walking and then getting people outdoors to then teach people what it means to be a human again.
So, with all this knowledge that you now have, here's what I'm so interested to know from you. If you were designing a beauty brand today, from everything that you already know from scratch, brain health, environment, human behavior, tactileness, what would you do if you were starting from scratch? How would you build differently now than maybe you did at Pride and Glory, or maybe that what you see a beauty brand building now of how they're launching product? What would you take into account?
I would take into account longevity of a product or longevity, because I know so many people these days are building brands for the buyout. They're building just to think at the end game instead of the journey that is beauty. Any product, whatever you launch, I see it over. I mean, you do too. I see it over and over and over again. People are saying, "Well, what is your product and what's your exit plan or exit strategy?" And I think, but you're missing the
I
point of
keep joking, it's
creating.
like everybody getting married to plan the divorce. Like,
Yes.
like, how do you build thinking you're exiting? I don't un it's challenging for my brain to wrap around, yes.
And so I had this conversation a lot with Ian Ginsberg of C.O. Bigelow. I mean, the oldest apothecary in
Yes.
the country since the 1800s, and it's a family business for them. So he and I talk about this too because we always feel that disconnect of you're creating something because you're so passionate about it. You want it. And you want it to live and breathe and thrive for a long, long, long time. But I never planned to get rid of Beauty Bar. That was going to be mine for as long as humanly possible. I never planned for an exit. So that wasn't my plan,
Yeah.
but I had to sell it when I sold it. But so I think founders today, it's about like really thinking about why are you doing what you want to do? What is it? You have to have that deep passion for it and create something that has legs and longevity, but think of it as an ecosystem of a being, like it's a living, breathing thing. Because beauty, if we look at it, it's a biology. So we think of a product of what does that feel like? What does a packaging feel like? Because I mean, you know, and I know because I still consult with a lot of beauty brands. It's all about making something very simplified and very structured and very maybe medical looking or very whatever it is at the moment
And
that you're supposed to make your
inexpensive to
packaging
produce.
and inexpensive. Yeah, I mean that's the bottom line. So it's hard to create products that have a tactileness that really have maybe weight to it, but how do we integrate like the real beauty, and also science? So how do we do that? It's a fine line, but how do we mix those two? And understand that beauty is also a reconnection to nature because a lot of the conversation, I mean, is all about sustainability.
Yeah.
But if we put sustainability at the middle or the forefront of our storyline, we're missing the point because beauty is about feeling and emotion and a sensory feeling. You cannot smell, taste, hear, or touch sustainability. So if you put sustainability, there's no connection to sustainability, but you put nature at the center. You can smell, taste, touch, hear, and all these things. The sensorialness of nature is what we want. Sustainability is a byproduct of that because we want to kind of preserve and instill and grow from nature. But sustainability is more doing less harm, less harm. Nature is about growth and expansion. So we've got to think about how do we position So I think it's got to think of it of a real holistic system, not just a product or a one-off or a brand that's hopefully going to sell in 2 to 5 years.
Bringing
That's my
beauty
that's
back
my
into
personal
beauty.
opinion.
Yes, bring beauty
Yes,
into
yeah,
beauty, actually. Yes,
yeah,
stop building for the
absolutely.
ROI and the exit and build from a place of passion and beauty. I love
It's hard to say that these days because a lot of people are saying, "Well, that's not what I want. I want out. I want in and out."
every single person in power in beauty right now is saying something completely opposite to it because the power is equated to the dollars. But next episode, we can talk about how private equity is ruining the beauty industry. That's okay.
We can
We
talk
love
about that.
our private
That's
equity friends. We really
I
do.
do. I do. I know. I do. I do love them, but it is hard. I think the messaging is just it's very off. It's very, very off to me personally.
So I would love to close with the fact that obviously we're 2 weeks out from you are going to be with me in the iconic Gloria Steinem's living room.
So
Cannot
excited.
wait. I cannot wait for that moment
Yeah.
together. And I'm curious what your thoughts are if you could share. Do you feel that beauty can be a tool for feminism? And maybe one or two ways that you think it can be that you've either seen or that you think about. If you want to share that here, because that is something that I am so looking forward to, and I just think we're luckiest people alive to be able to be in her living room and get to talk about this topic.
I'm so honored that you asked me to be a part of this because I'm so excited because I when you said what the whole mission of this time period is going to be about, it is can beauty be this like gift for feminism? And I think feminism also often gets a bad rap instead of saying, I think of feminism as like we're all coming together to
Yes.
really help each other. And I think beauty is all about flourishing and thriving. How do we think about beauty as this bigger thing and a beauty because beauty is it is all intertwined. I mean, you know that, I know that. So how do we then think about ourselves again as these ecosystems of thriving together? And when I teach young kids and when we're in the park or walking, I always say, look at all these different plants and trees together. Can you believe they're all sharing the same exact dirt? Because they all need each other to thrive. So what are we sharing? We're sharing like that mycelium network underground that we often can't see, but it's there and we're sharing the nutrients and the water and we're talking to each other. How do we help each other thrive and grow? And look at all this great new things we can do. It's the same exact thing for beauty. It's the same exact thing in feminism. How do we connect each other together? Well, all the work's kind of doing is underneath the surface, but we're all speaking to each other. We're all giving each other resources and help and making sure we see one another as who we are as real human beings in a time of such change, which can be very, very challenging. So we can't separate now. Like we can't pull apart now. Now we need beauty as a source of wisdom and growth and expansion. We need it more now than ever before. So I think this conversation is going to be so incredible. And I'm so excited for it because there's such, I can feel it. I'm excited every day. I'm so excited because I think we're doing these conversations and we're helping people see people for who they are. And it's important right now because we're getting lost in the noise and the fray. But how do we recenter to the place of beauty? Beauty is the center and the source. I really believe that. And once we realize that we are beauty, it's not something out there to attain, but we are this beautiful life force. Everything else is great.
I love this so much. I love this visual too of nature as the ultimate community, as the ultimate networker of how everything is in harmony together. Thank you so much for your time this morning. Thank you
Thank
for teaching
you.
us that beauty is us, that beauty is neuroscience, that beauty is infrastructure, that beauty is community, that beauty is so much more than just a product on a shelf. That is such a gift to be in conversation with you, Jennifer. Thank you so much.
And I feel the same way about you. I had to be honest. I think the world of you, and I'm so thankful for Clubhouse
Oh, I
back
know.
during
Shout out
COVID
to Clubhouse.
that
I know.
connected us.
Yes.
And I just remember like your just your energy and your joy and your passion for what you do resonates. And I feel it's palpable. What you do is palpable, and your love for what you do and how you share the shine and the brightness within your company and your joy for the industry really is what the world needs right now. So keep up the great work that you're doing.
Received. Thank you so much. I'm gonna go cry off camera now. But thank you so much. And then please let everybody know where to find you if they would like to go deeper about these topics. Where does one find you these?
Sure. I am always on Instagram, so that's the Jennifer Walsh on Instagram. LinkedIn, I do a lot on LinkedIn. That's also the Jennifer Walsh, and my website is Walk with Walsh or Lost Art of Being Human.
Amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
These conversations matter because who gets to speak shapes who gets to win. If this episode challenged how you see beauty, business, or the power behind the industry, share it with someone who needs to hear it. To connect or explore more, check the show notes. I'm Susannah Dellinger, and this has been Off the Shelf.